Hi, I'm Chin Yu, a client advisor from Providend. I've been an advisor for 2 years. I'm here on FA Explains today, where I will help to explain some of the common searches on the internet. There are many mental biases that affect how we decide in our day-to-day lives, and especially when it comes to our money decisions. Over the long term, they can have quite a significant impact to our wealth and subsequently how we are able to live the life we want. So some of these biases will include the self-serving bias, the availability bias, mental accounting, and the Dunning-Kruger effect that will influence us in our daily lives. The first thing to understand is that our human brains are not able to effectively process probabilities in an intuitive manner. And this is sometimes resulting in what is called the self-serving bias, where we tend to think that good outcomes are because of our own capabilities, instead of taking a step back and considering how much of it was due to just luck. Why this is important is that we want to be able to make good decisions and avoid being blinded by our own self-serving bias. Now, I'll give you an example. Imagine if you just so happened to hear about Bitcoin in 2008 and decided to put down all your life savings of 20 years into the digital asset just because you had a good feel for it. You certainly would have a very good outcome today. However, if we were to review whether it was really a good decision, we would want to think whether risking our life savings based on a good feel is really sound. Because you would then decide in the same way in the future where you encounter similar situations again. Decisions and outcomes are correlated but separate. And when assessing investment decisions, you always want to think very objectively how the role of luck has been factored into the outcome. It is basically a mental shortcut that gives higher weightage to information that is more readily available to us and the tendency to overestimate the likelihood of something similar happening in the future. So for example, after hearing about news reports of airplane crashes, our brains tend to immediately associate air travel as being dangerous. We tend to rely on the availability bias as a shortcut because we typically don't have immediate access to larger data sets of information or statistics to make a more accurate judgment. Now, similarly, when it comes to investing, we tend to predict the future based on our own limited experiences within a very short time frame. Now, the capital markets has been around for over 100 years. So instead, we want to be objective, we want to consider the longer term data and be humble enough to accept the difficulty in predicting the future. Mental accounting is when you assign different values on different pots of money based on subjective criteria, which leads to irrational decisions. Now, to give you a common example of what I mean, when a person gambles at a casino and he wins money, he will often refer to his winnings as house money and tend to take higher risk with it. Now, however, money is fungible, meaning that every dollar is the same, regardless of where it came from, and should be treated in exactly the same way. We also often observe this in investing. When we hear someone say they are waiting for their investments to break even before selling, or that they can afford their investments that are in the green to lose some because they are already in profits. However, a drop in value is the same loss, whether it comes from your winnings or losing investments. So the prices you bought in has no relevance to your current decision to buy or sell, because you are assessing on their future prospects and whether you should continue to be invested in them. Now, that being said, it is often not easy to overcome mental accounting, but a good way to help think about this is to imagine if all your investments were converted to cash today, whether you would still buy back the same investments that you hold today. What I've been found is that people with less knowledge in a particular subject they tend to overestimate their competence. Or to put it in another way, the more we know about something, the more we realize that there's actually a lot that we still don't understand. Now that is what people call the Dunning-Kruger effect. And I mention this because not only do you want to be fully aware of your own personal biases that can hurt your investment journey, you also want to incorporate very critical thinking and skepticism in your thought process. I think we have to recognize that our brains are not perfect, and we want to figure out ways to mitigate our natural tendencies to use mental shortcuts that might not be correct. Now, the investment space is full of noise, uncertainty, and complexity. Hence, we always want to be objective. We want to ask a lot of questions before we arrive at a conclusion. What I usually find is because there's a lot of noise when it comes to making investment decisions, there tend to be always some kind of narrative, regardless of what type of investments that you are considering. So it is important that we always ask ourselves, how strong is the evidence that the investments will provide our desired outcome with a high level of certainty? And what is the data actually telling us? You also need to understand where the returns are coming from in any investments. Is it from an economic contribution, such as buying into companies that sells goods and services and rewarding shareholders with their profits? Or does it actually come from a certain speculation or prediction of market direction? Lastly, it is also good to understand what is the potential best and worst case scenario and how likely they will happen. Well, you should ask if they have an investment framework that guides their investment decisions. Because there are so many instruments out there, hence there must be a robust and time-tested philosophy and framework to distill down to the right investments for you. The other thing that you should also ask your financial advisor is to consider your personal situation and goals holistically before making any investment decisions. If the investments have been set up properly in a diversified manner across the broad markets and have taken into consideration your personal goals, your time horizon, then it is important that we don't panic and that we trust that the markets will recover because they have always done so throughout history. If you're still accumulating assets towards your long-term goals such as retirement, then this could actually be a good opportunity to accumulate more at a lower price when the market dips. There is no one-size-fits-all approach. Everyone is different. Hence, you want to know how the investments fit into your own circumstances. It is also very important to always do your own due diligence and have a good understanding of how they actually work. Finally, always consider the relevant risks.